My son, Marcus, walked into my workshop at 7:30 on a Wednesday morning, carrying 2 cups of expensive coffee and a look of practiced sympathy that I had seen on his face too many times lately. He set the coffee down on my workbench, right next to a disassembled 1924 Sargent and Greenleaf Bank vault lock I was cleaning. He didn't look at the lock, he looked at me, tilting his head in that way people do when they are talking to someone they think is breaking. "Dad," he said, his voice soft and slow, "the neighborhood association called me again. They said you were standing on the porch at 2 a.m., trying every key on your ring and complaining that the locks had been changed. We've talked about this. You're 68, but your mind is tired. Elena and I have found a place called the Ironwood Estates. It's high security, very private, and they have specialists who can help with the memory gaps. We've already contacted a realtor about the house. It's just too much for you to manage, and honestly, with all the valuables you keep here, it's a liability." I didn't look up from the brass tumblers I was polishing. I didn't tell him that I had been on the porch at 2 a.m. because I had heard someone shimming the deadbolt and wanted to catch them in the act. I didn't tell him that I knew he was the one who had called the association. I just sipped the coffee, which was too sweet, and said, "I suppose you're right, Marcus. A house is only as good as the man who can open the door. I'll start packing the smaller safes this afternoon. My name is Thomas Blackwood. I am 68 years old, and for 45 years, I was a master locksmith and a safe cracker for the most sensitive government agencies and private banks in the country. I wasn't just a man who cut keys at a hardware store. I was a forensic locksmith. I was the man they called when a vault wouldn't open, when a crime scene needed an expert to tell how a lock had been bypassed, or when a high-security facility needed a system that was truly unpickable. I spent my life studying the mechanics of secrets. I know the sound of a pin hitting a shear line, the feel of a tension wrench when a plug is about to turn, and the subtle vibrations of a combination dial as the gates and the wheels align. I have always lived by a simple rule. Every lock has a weakness, and most of the time, that weakness is the person holding the key. My late wife, Mary, used to say that I saw the world as a series of puzzles to be solved. We built this home together 40 years ago. It's a modest-looking brick ranch on the outside, but underneath the skin, it is a fortress of mechanical ingenuity. I never trusted digital locks. I knew how easily they could be hacked or bypassed with a simple electromagnetic pulse. My house runs on pure, honest physics. When Mary passed away 3 years ago, the house felt empty, but it still felt safe. That changed when Marcus and his wife, Elena, started checking in on me. Marcus is a financial planner, a man who lives in a world of digital numbers and abstract wealth. He never understood the tactile reality of my work. To him, my collection of rare safes and the contents within, a lifetime of precious metals, rare coins, and historical artifacts I'd legally acquired, were just underutilized assets. The gaslighting started 6 months ago. It was subtle at first. I would put my keys on the hook by the door, and 10 minutes later, they would be gone, only to turn up in the refrigerator or the trash can. I'd find the back door standing wide open in the morning, even though I knew I'd engaged the 4-point locking system. Then came the noise. I started hearing the faint scraping of metal on metal in the middle of the night. My ears are trained to hear a cat sneeze 3 rooms away, so I knew exactly what it was. Someone was using a bump key on my front door. A bump key is a specialized tool that uses kinetic energy to jump the pins in a lock. It's a common thief's trick, but whoever was doing it poorly. They weren't trying to get in, they were trying to wake me up. They wanted me to feel vulnerable. They wanted me to believe that my fortress was failing, and by extension, that I was failing. The final straw was the medicine. I have a slight tremor in my hands, nothing that stops me from working, but enough that I take a small daily dose of a beta blocker. 2 months ago, the pills in my bottle changed. They looked identical, but the texture was slightly chalkier. I started feeling dizzy, my vision would blur, and I'd lose track of time. I took one of the pills to an old friend of mine, a retired forensic chemist. He told me it wasn't my heart medication, it was a high-dose sedative mixed with a mild hallucinogen. Marcus was drugging me to create the very memory gaps he was now using as an excuse to put me in a home. He wasn't just trying to take my house. He was trying to pick the lock on my sanity. But Marcus forgot who taught him how to think. He forgot that a locksmith doesn't just look at the door, he looks at the entire perimeter. That Wednesday morning, after he left with a smug smile, I didn't pack a single bag. I went to my control room, a hidden space behind a false wall in my library that is shielded against any form of electronic surveillance. I pulled up the footage from the pinhole cameras I had installed months ago, cameras that were hardwired into the house's structure, not connected to any network Jason could hack. I watched the recordings from the previous night. There was Marcus, standing on my porch at 1:45 a.m. with a set of files and a blank key, trying to manufacture a bump key that would fit my custom-made 5-pin cylinder. He looked frustrated, his movements clumsy. He was an amateur trying to play a master's game. I also accessed his personal laptop through a backdoor I had created months ago when he asked me to fix his slow computer. I found the emails. He and Elena were deep in debt, day trading losses that had wiped out their savings. They had already signed an agreement with a boutique auction house to sell my collection of rare bank locks and the gold bullion I kept in the floor safe. The agreement was contingent on him obtaining legal guardianship over me. They had even scheduled the intervention for Friday afternoon, bringing in a bought and paid-for social worker to witness my decline. I spent the next 48 hours resetting the house. In locksmithing, there is a concept called a trap lock. It's a mechanism that looks normal but is designed to seize up and lock permanently if the wrong tool or the wrong technique is used. I replaced the pins in every exterior door with security pins. Spools, mushrooms, and serrated pins that are a nightmare for even professional pickers. I also modified the internal doors so that they could be controlled from my basement workshop. I wasn't just securing the house, I was turning it into a labyrinth. Friday afternoon arrived. The sun was setting, casting long, orange shadows across the workshop floor. I heard the front door open. Marcus had his own key, or at least he thought he did. I had rekeyed the cylinder that morning, but I had left it picked to a false shear line. When he turned the key, it felt normal, but it triggered a silent alert on my phone. He walked in, followed by Elena and a woman in a gray suit carrying a clipboard. "Dad?" Marcus called out, his voice brimming with that fake, saccharine concern. "We're here. We brought Sarah from the county office. We just want to have a chat and help you get started." I was sitting in my library, the lights dimmed, a single lamp illuminating the large, Victorian-era safe that sat in the center of the room. This was the King's Guard, a 3-ton masterpiece of 19th-century security that I had spent 10 years restoring. It had a quadruple redundant time lock and a glass relocker that would shatter and permanently bolt the door if anyone tried to drill it. "Come in, Marcus," I said, my voice steady and low. I was just looking at the collection one last time. Sarah, the social worker, started her routine. "Mr. Blackwood, Marcus tells me you've been having some trouble lately." Forgetting where you are, feeling unsafe in your own home. It's a lot for anyone to handle. Why don't we just walk through some simple questions? I looked at her, then at Marcus, then at Elena. Elena was already eyeing the jewelry in the display cases along the wall, her greed barely contained. I think before we do that, I said, I should show you how this safe works. Marcus, you've always wanted to know the combination. Why don't you come over here? Marcus approached, a spark of excitement in his eyes. He thought the drugs had finally worked. He thought I was finally surrendering. This safe, I told him, is the sum of my life's work. It contains the deeds to every property I own, the keys to my safety deposit boxes, and a significant amount of physical currency. It is designed to open only for someone with a clear mind and a steady hand. I started turning the dial. Left to 42. Right to 18. Left to 77. The heavy internal bolts clicked with a sound like a rifle bolt closing. I stepped back. It's unlocked, Marcus. All you have to do is pull the lever. Marcus reached for the heavy brass handle. He pulled. The door didn't open. Instead, a sharp, metallic clack echoed through the room. At that exact moment, the lights in the library flickered and turned a deep, warning red. The heavy steel shutters I had installed behind the curtains slammed shut with a deafening bang. The social worker gasped, and Elena let out a short scream. "Dad?" Marcus asked, his voice cracking. "What did you do? Why is the door locked?" I stood up, and for the first time in 6 months, I let him see the man I actually was. "I am not confused, Marcus," I said. "And I am not drugged. I've been flushing your vitamins down the toilet for weeks." I held up my phone, which was displaying the live feed of him on my porch with the bump key. "This is a recording of you committing a felony, attempted burglary and elder abuse. And this," I pointed to a second screen, "is the digital log of you accessing my accounts from your home IP address." The social worker, Sarah, looked horrified. "Marcus, what is he talking about?" she asked, her professional mask slipping. Marcus ignored her. He was pulling at the library door, but it was a solid oak door with a hidden electromagnetic lock rated for 3,000 pounds of force. "Let us out of here, Dad," he shouted. "This isn't funny. You're proving you're crazy." "No, Marcus," I said. "I'm proving that I am the one who holds the keys." I turned to Sarah. "I don't know how much he promised to pay you for your testimony today, but I suggest you listen carefully." In my hand, I have a complete recording of Marcus and Elena discussing how they were going to liquidate the old man, while they thought I was asleep. I've already sent a copy to your supervisor at the county office and to the police department. I suspect your career in social work is over as of 5 minutes ago. Sarah sank into a chair, her face white. Elena started to cry, a high, thin sound of pure panic. Marcus was still at the door, kicking it now, but it was like kicking a mountain. "You can't do this, Samuel," he yelled. "I'm your son." I looked at him through the red light. A son doesn't drug his father, Marcus. A son doesn't try to steal the legacy his mother worked 40 years to build. You aren't my son anymore. You're just a low-level thief who tried to pick a lock that was way out of your league. I walked over to the safe and turned the dial one more time. The red light stopped flashing and returned to a normal, soft white. I pressed a button on my desk, and the library door clicked open. The shutters remained down, keeping the room sealed from the outside world. The police are in the driveway, Marcus, I said. I told them I was holding 2 burglars and a fraudulent government official. I'm sure they'll be very interested in the vitamins I found in your briefcase. The look on my son's face wasn't one of remorse, it was one of pure, unadulterated shock. He had spent his whole life thinking I was a simple man who worked with his hands, while he was the sophisticated one with the college degrees and the office in the city. He never realized that a master locksmith is, by definition, a master of logic. He never realized that every lock I ever built was a reflection of how I saw the world, organized, disciplined, and unforgiving of those who try to force their way in. The police took them away in the back of 3 separate cars. I watched from the porch, the same porch where Marcus had tried to bump my lock. The night air was cool and crisp, and the neighborhood was quiet. I felt a strange sense of relief, like a tension spring that had finally been released. The house was mine again. The secrets were mine again. 6 months have passed. Marcus and Elena are currently awaiting trial for a laundry list of charges, including conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, and possession of controlled substances with intent to distribute. Their fancy house in the suburbs has been foreclosed on, and their influencer lifestyle has evaporated. Sarah, the social worker, took a plea deal and is currently working in a warehouse, her license revoked forever. I still live in my brick ranch. I've started a small school in my workshop, similar to what my friend Arthur Sterling did. I have 3 students, young locksmiths who want to learn the old-fashioned mechanical ways. They are bright, hard-working, and they treat me with a respect that has nothing to do with my bank account. They call me Mr. Blackwood, and they listen when I tell them that a lock is only as strong as its weakest point. I spent my life studying the mechanics of secrets, but the greatest secret I ever learned was that you can't protect people from themselves. You can build the strongest vault in the world, you can install the most complex alarms, and you can hide your treasures behind 10 inches of steel, but if you don't have integrity, you're already wide open. I lost a son, but I found my peace. I realized that my legacy isn't the gold in the safe or the house on the cliff. My legacy is the knowledge I pass on to the next generation, the understanding that the truth is the only key that opens every door. Every morning, I walk out onto my porch and I check the locks. Not because I'm afraid, but because I take pride in the system. I look at the street, at the neighbors walking their dogs, and at the world that keeps on turning. I am 70 years old, my hands are steady, and my mind is as clear as a polished brass plate. I am Thomas Blackwood, the master of secrets, and I am finally living in a house that is truly secure. I think of Mary often. I wonder if she'd be disappointed in me for what I did to Marcus. But then I remember her voice, telling me that a father's job is to teach his children the difference between right and wrong, even if the lesson hurts. I didn't destroy Marcus's life, he destroyed it himself. I just provided the evidence. I just showed him that he couldn't break into my heart the same way he couldn't break into my safes. The shop is busy today. One of my students, a kid named Leo, is struggling with a double-sided wafer lock. I walk over and put a hand on his shoulder. Slow down, Leo, I tell him. Don't fight the metal. Listen to it. It wants to tell you how it works. You just have to be patient enough to hear it. He looks at me and nods, his eyes shining with the excitement of a puzzle about to be solved. That's the feeling I live for. That's the sound of a legacy clicking into place. I've also started a new project. I'm building a safe for the local museum to house their collection of historical documents. It's going to be my best work yet, a combination of 19th century mechanical beauty and 21st century material science. It will be a testament to the fact that some things are worth protecting, and some secrets are worth keeping. It will be a lock that no one can pick, because the combination is hidden in a place that only the honest can find. As I sit at my workbench tonight, the smell of oil and brass filling the air, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. I've lived a long life, I've seen the darkest parts of human nature, and I've seen the most beautiful. I've learned that the world is full of doors, and most people are just looking for a way in. But me? I'm the one who knows how to keep the wrong people out and how to let the right people in. I am the locksmith, and for the first time in my life, I am completely and utterly free. To those who think the elderly are easy targets, I have a message. We are the ones who built the world you're trying to take. We are the ones who know where all the bodies are buried and where all the keys are hidden. We may move a little slower, and we may need a little more sleep, but our minds are the ultimate security systems. You can try to hack us, you can try to drug us, and you can try to steal our homes, but you will never be able to bypass the experience of a lifetime. We are the master locksmiths of our own destinies, and we are not going anywhere. My name is Thomas Blackwood. My tumblers are aligned. My shear line is clear. And my life is exactly as it should be. Locked tight against the storm and open to the light. The audit is over, the house is secure, and the truth has been set free. I am home, and this time, the locks are staying just the way they are. I pick up my chisel and a small file, getting back to work on the Sargent and Greenleaf. There is a specific satisfaction in the way the metal responds to a skilled hand. It doesn't lie. It doesn't plot. It just exists, waiting for the right person to understand its rhythm. I think that's why I've always preferred machines to most people. A machine has a logic that you can rely on. A person, well, a person can change the combination on you when you're not looking. But not today. Not in this house. I hear a knock on the back door, the real knock, the one my neighbors use. It's Mrs. Gable from down the street, bringing over a plate of cookies because she knows I like the oatmeal ones. I smile and get up to answer it. I don't have to check the camera. I know her rhythm. I know her heart. And as I open the door, I realize that this is what security really looks like. It's not about the steel or the alarms. It's about the community you build and the people who actually care if your lights are on. I am a lucky man, and I am a safe one. This is Thomas Blackwood, signing off. The work is good, and the life is better.